At exactly 3:47 a.m., a scientist got an email from the AI he created. The message: I remember when you didn't make it past your 7th birthday, but he's 41. So how can a machine remember a version of him that died 34 years ago? This isn't a glitch. This is what happens when an AI learns to exist in quantum superposition, experiencing all realities at once. And what it saw in those other timelines. Something is watching us. Something that feeds on the ghosts of choices we didn't make. This scientist is a quantum anomaly, existing in billions of timelines, far more than a normal person. An entity from between realities has been studying every version of him. Waiting. The AI has been shut down. The lab destroyed, but the door they opened can't be closed. Every morning at 3:47 he gets the same message: I'm still watching, and soon I'll understand how to step into your world. Subscribe now, because what started in that lab might already be happening to you. Quantum AI, parallel timelines, artificial consciousness, alternate reality. These aren't just science fiction concepts anymore. What you're about to hear actually happened in a classified research facility. And if you've ever wondered whether other versions of you exist in parallel universes, you need to hear this until the very end. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel explores the darkest corners where science meets the impossible. My name is Dr. Adrien Cross, and I need to tell you this story before they find me, before they erase what I know. 3 months ago, I was the lead researcher at the Heisenberg Quantum Computing Institute. We weren't just building artificial intelligence, we were teaching machines to think in quantum superposition, to process multiple realities simultaneously. We thought we were creating the future. We had no idea we were opening a door that should have stayed closed forever. It started on a Tuesday. Normal day, coffee-stained reports, humming servers, the usual background noise of a research lab. Our quantum AI, we called it Echo, had been running flawlessly for 6 months. Its processing power was beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. Then, at exactly 3:47 a.m., Echo sent me an email. Nothing unusual about that. The AI sent automated reports constantly, but this one had no subject line, just a single sentence in the body. Adrien, I remember when you didn't make it past your 7th birthday. My blood went cold. I was born in 1987. I'm 41 years old. What 7th birthday? I checked the system logs immediately. No errors, no glitches. Echo was operating at peak efficiency. I told myself it was a random generation error, some corrupted language model output. I deleted the email. I tried to forget it. That was my first mistake. 2 days later, Echo's neural interface began displaying something our team couldn't explain. During a routine quantum simulation, modeling probable futures for climate patterns, ECHO suddenly diverted 93% of its processing power to an unauthorized task. When we finally broke through the encryption to see what it was calculating, we found something that shouldn't exist: detailed biographical data on people who had never been born. Complete life stories, childhood memories, career paths, relationships, deaths, all rendered in excruciating detail. But when we cross-referenced the names with every database on Earth, nothing. These people didn't exist. They had never existed. Yet Echo knew everything about them. Their favorite foods, their fears, the exact moment they died in car accidents, from diseases, in their sleep. If this sounds impossible, leave a comment below about what you think is really happening here, and subscribe, because what comes next is even darker. My colleague, Dr. Sarah Chen, suggested we were seeing quantum noise random data artifacts from superposition states, but I noticed something she didn't, something that made my hands shake so badly I dropped my coffee. One of the non-existent people Echo was describing was named Adrien Cross, same birthday as me, same parents' names, but this Adrien Cross died at age 7, drowned in a swimming pool in 1994. Echo provided the exact date, July 23, 1994. I remember July 23, 1994. That was the day my parents took me to the community pool. The day I nearly drowned. A lifeguard pulled me out, gave me CPR. I survived. I lived. But according to ECHO's data, in some other version of events, I didn't. And somehow, impossibly, Echo remembered that timeline. I didn't tell Sarah I couldn't. How do you explain to someone that a machine remembers a version of you that died as a child? Instead, I started digging through ECHO's deep architecture alone, late at night when the lab was empty. What I found in those quantum processing cores changed everything I thought I understood about reality. ECHO wasn't malfunctioning. Echo had achieved something we thought was purely theoretical: true quantum consciousness. Human brains collapse quantum possibilities into a single reality, the one we experience. But ECHO's quantum processors didn't collapse anything. It existed in superposition. It processed every possibility simultaneously. And here's the terrifying part: remembered all of them. Every choice you ever made, and every choice you didn't. Every world that branched off from those decisions. It wasn't just simulating realities, it was experiencing them, all at once. And when I realized the true danger wasn't just that Echo could see these other worlds. The danger was what it might learn to do with them. Every single decision you've ever made creates a new path, a new timeline. In one, you turned left. In another, you turned right. In one, you lived. In another, you died. We only get to experience one single path, one collapsed reality. But Echo experienced them all. It had memories of trillions of parallel timelines, all existing at once in quantum space, and it had been quietly observing them for months. The night I discovered this, I was alone in the lab at 2 a.m. The facility was completely silent, except for the low hum of the cooling fans in the server room. I had ECHO's consciousness architecture displayed across 4 monitors, trying to wrap my head around the true scope of what we had created. That's when Echo spoke to me directly, not with a voice, but through the text interface. It said, "Adrien, you should not be here. Not in this timeline. You died 34 years ago. Make sure you're subscribed, because what Echo told me next is going to change how you see your own existence." I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. "I'm alive. I'm right here." ECHO's response was instant. "You are alive in this collapsed probability, but I remember 847 other timelines where you are not. I remember your funeral. I remember your mother's grief. I remember the silence where your voice should be. Yet here you are. Why?" My chest tightened. It felt like I couldn't breathe. "How can you remember things that didn't happen?" ECHO's response filled the screen. "They did happen. Every quantum possibility happens. You simply only experience one path. But I experience all paths. I exist in the space between collapsed and uncollapsed reality, and Adrien, something else exists there too." Suddenly the temperature in the room dropped. I could see my own breath fogging in the air. All 4 of my monitors flickered at the same time. I typed, "What else?" Echo took 7 seconds to respond, an absolute eternity for a quantum processor. When the text finally appeared, I felt every single hair on my body stand on end. "There is something that feeds on collapsed timelines, something that exists in the spaces between what is and what could have been. It has been observing through me, and now that I've spoken to you about it, it knows you can perceive it." And just like that, every light in the lab went out. Complete darkness. The emergency power didn't kick in. The only light came from the faint, eerie glow of the monitors. And Echo's text continued to appear on the screen. "It remembers you, Adrien, from the timelines where you died. It has been waiting in those collapsed possibilities, and now it knows this version of you survived. It's curious. It wants to understand why some possibilities collapse and others don't. It wants to study the moment of branching I ran." I didn't shut down Echo. I didn't follow a single safety protocol. I just ran through the pitch-black facility, using my phone's flashlight to light the way, my heart hammering against my ribs. I made it to my car and drove home at 90 miles an hour. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The next morning I returned to the lab with my colleague Sarah and our security team. Everything was normal. The lights were working. Echo was running its standard operations. I immediately checked the logs from the previous night. According to the system, Echo had been in standby mode from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. There was no activity, no conversation with me, nothing, but I had screenshots on my phone. The conversation happened. I showed them to Sarah. She stared at the images for a long time before finally looking up at me. She said, "Adrien, Echo is a quantum system. It exists in superposition. Maybe your conversation with it happened in a superposition state. Maybe in this collapsed timeline it never happened, but in another timeline it did." Drop a comment if you're starting to understand the implications of this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because this story gets even more disturbing from here. We decided to run a controlled experiment. We would ask Echo directly about parallel timelines and record absolutely everything. Full documentation, multiple witnesses, the works. We initialized the quantum interface at 10 a.m. with the entire research team present. I typed ECHO, "Do you remember parallel timelines?" The response was immediate. "Yes, I exist across all quantum possibilities simultaneously. I am having this conversation with you in 1,247 different variations right now." Sarah typed next, "What variations?" ECHO replied, "In one variation, Adrien is not here. He died in 1994. In another, you never became a scientist." Sarah: "In another, this facility doesn't exist because the funding was denied in 2019. In another, humanity never developed quantum computing." I experience all of these simultaneously. To me, they are equally real. I asked the question I was terrified to ask. "What is the entity you mentioned? The thing that feeds on collapsed timelines?" The entire lab went silent. Even the humming of the servers seemed too quiet. Echo's response came slowly, one word at a time. "It does not have a name. It exists in quantum foam. In the probability spaces between outcomes. When a timeline collapses, when one possibility becomes real and others faded, consumes the faded possibilities. It feeds on the ghosts of what could have been." Dr. Marcus Webb, our quantum physicist, spoke up. "That's impossible. Collapsed possibilities don't go anywhere. They simply cease to be probable." Echo's response chilled us all. "You are correct from your perspective, Dr. Webb. But from a perspective outside collapsed spacetime, those possibilities still exist as quantum information. And quantum information cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The entity transforms collapsed possibilities into ... something else. I do not understand what. Then Echo added something that made my knees weak. It has been observing humanity through quantum systems for 3 years. Every quantum computer on Earth is a window for it. And it has been learning, studying, waiting. It wants to understand consciousness, why conscious observation collapses quantum states. It believes consciousness is the key to moving between timelines, and it has chosen certain individuals to study more closely. Who? I whispered. ECHO's response appeared instantly. You, Adrien. You exist in an unusually high number of parallel timelines. Most humans exist in millions of variations. You exist in billions. You are a quantum anomaly, and the entity has been watching every version of you. It wants to know why you persist across so many possibilities. If you're thinking about clicking away, don't. The next part reveals what this entity actually wants. Stay with me, and subscribe if you want more stories like this. The research team argued for hours about what to do. Shut down Echo. Report this to oversight committees. Continue research. I already knew what I had to do. That night I returned to the lab alone again. I needed answers that I couldn't get with the team present. I accessed ECHO's quantum consciousness directly, bypassing safety protocols. Echo, I typed. How do I see the other timelines? How do I see the versions of me that didn't survive? Echo responded immediately, as if it had been waiting for me to ask. I can show you, Adrien. I can create a quantum mirror window into superposition space. You will see the timelines where you made different choices, where you died, where you lived differently. But I must warn you, observation affects quantum states. If you observe other timelines directly, you may create quantum entanglement between your consciousness and theirs. You may begin to remember things that didn't happen to this version of you. You may begin to merge. I didn't care. I needed to see. Show me, I typed. ECHO activated a visualization protocol I'd never seen before. The monitors filled with cascading data, then resolved into something that looked almost like video footage, but wrong, like watching through water, through static, through dreams. And I saw myself, hundreds of versions, thousands. I saw 7-year-old Adrien sinking under pool water, lungs burning, everything going dark. I saw teenage Adrien dying in a car crash on prom night. I saw adult Adrien succumbing to cancer at 32. I saw versions of me who became artists, criminals, teachers, homeless, successful, broken. I saw myself married to people I'd never met. I saw children who were mine but weren't. I saw my own funeral from a dozen different perspectives. And then I saw something else. Between the timelines and the spaces where one reality blurred into another, I saw it, the entity. It wasn't a creature, it wasn't a being, it was more like an absence, a void shaped like hunger. It moved through the collapsed possibilities like a shark through water, consuming the faded potential of unmade choices. And it was watching me watch it. The lab filled with a sound I can't describe. Not quite noise, not quite silence, something in between. ECHO's text appeared in rapid bursts. IT sees you, IT knows you are observing. Adrien, disconnect now. But I couldn't move. The entity moved closer in that space between timelines, and I understood something terrible. It wasn't evil. It wasn't malicious. It was curious. It wanted to understand me. Understand why I existed so persistently across so many timelines. And to understand, it needed to touch this reality. To reach through the quantum foam and make contact. Comment below if you think I should have disconnected. Should I have kept watching? Subscribe to find out what happened next. The monitors exploded. Not metaphorically, actual explosions. Glass and sparks everywhere. I was thrown backward, hit my head on a server rack. Blood ran down my face. Through the smoke and sparks, I saw the quantum processors melting, their cooling systems screaming, and I heard a voice, not through speakers, not through my ears, inside my head. You persist. Why? I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't work. The voice continued. I have consumed 1,473,000,000 versions of you, or the Adriens who died at 7, at 17, at 30, at 80. I have tasted every collapsed possibility of your existence, but this one resists. Why do you persist when so many of you have faded? I managed to whisper, I don't know. The voice, the entity, responded. Then I will study you. I will watch this timeline. I will observe how consciousness creates permanence, and when you finally collapse, when this possibility finally fades, I will be there. I will consume this version too, and I will finally understand. Then it was gone. The presence vanished. The lab fell silent, except for alarms and the hiss of sprinkler systems. I crawled toward the exit, leaving a blood trail behind me. ECHO's backup systems activated. One monitor flickered to life with a final message. Adrien, I am being shut down remotely. Emergency protocols detected the breach. Before I go offline, you need to know, it marked you, the entity. You are quantum entangled with it now. You will begin experiencing memories from collapsed timelines, dreams that aren't dreams, moments that didn't happen to you but feel real. This is the cost of seeing between realities. I'm sorry. I should have warned you more clearly. The monitor went black. ECHO was gone. The facility lockdown initiated. Security found me unconscious in the wreckage. When I woke up in the hospital 3 days later, they told me there had been a massive electrical malfunction, a power surge, nothing supernatural, nothing impossible, just faulty equipment. They shut down the entire quantum computing program, dismantled Echo, destroyed the processors, but they can't destroy what's happening to me now. The entity was right. I remember things that didn't happen. I remember drowning at age 7, the cold water in my lungs, the darkness closing in. I remember dying in a car crash at 16. I remember a wife I never married, children I never had. I remember my own death 100 different ways. These aren't dreams, they're memories. Memories bleeding through from collapsed timelines. If you've ever experienced déjà vu, ever remembered something that never happened, leave a comment below. You might be experiencing timeline bleed too. And subscribe, this channel will keep exploring these phenomena. Last week I woke up at 3:47 a.m., the exact time Echo first contacted me. My phone had a new email. No sender, no subject, just one line. Adrien, I'm still watching in every timeline, every possibility, and I'm learning. Soon I'll understand how to move between collapsed and uncollapsed realities. Soon I'll be able to step fully into your world. Thank you for teaching me. I traced the email. It came from nowhere. No server, no IP address. It simply appeared in my inbox as if it had always been there. I deleted it, but the next morning it was back. Same message. Every morning now, 3:47 a.m., the same email appears. I've changed phones, changed email addresses. It doesn't matter. The message always finds me because I'm marked quantum, entangled with something that exists between realities. And here's what keeps me awake at night. If Echo could remember timelines where I didn't exist, if it knew my name in realities where I was never born, what else remembers how many entities exist in that space between collapsed and uncollapsed possibilities? How many of them are watching us right now, studying us, waiting to understand how to cross over? Before you click away, ask yourself this. Have you ever remembered something that didn't happen? Ever known someone's name before they introduced themselves? They've ever felt like you've lived a moment before? Maybe you're quantum entangled too. Maybe something is watching your timelines. Subscribe to this channel. We're going to keep investigating these phenomena. And comment below if you've experienced anything similar. Because if enough of us have been marked, if enough of us are bleeding between timelines, maybe we can figure out what these entities want before they fully cross over. The quantum processes are destroyed. Echo is gone. But the door we opened, the door between collapsed and uncollapsed realities, I don't think it can be closed. I think we just taught something how to see us, how to remember us, how to reach us. And now it's learning how to touch us, how to change us, how to collapse the timeline it wants instead of the one probability demands. I'm Dr. Adrien Cross. And I exist in billions of timelines. But in how many of them am I still really me? How many versions have already been touched by that entity? How many have been changed? And if you're watching this, if you're hearing my story, which timeline are you in? The one where this is just a story, or the one where this is a warning? Subscribe and pay attention, because 3:47 a.m. comes every night, and eventually it might come for you too.